Hey, how you going there, peeps? Phil here from MTG Kiwi Philosophy. I'm bringing you another deck today. This time it's my green-black counter deck. This is an oldie but a goodie. It's been sitting in my box of collection. It's part of my 20 that I play at standard. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Peace out. Enjoy the brew. CounterAttack! Okay guys, let's kick this off. And as you can tell by the art in the backdrop, that we're going to be building our deck around this card. And that is Winding Constrictor. We're going to be going with 4 copies of this bad boy. Now the good thing about Winding Constrictor is it's a 2-drop. It's green, black, 2/3, and it's a snake. But the best thing about it is whenever we put anything into play with a counter on it, creature and artifact wise, this bad boy would add an additional counter on top of that. So let's get started and start building around this and make ourselves a beautiful piece of work. Now the best way to build around a card sometimes is to also make sure that we have plenty of protection to be able to keep it in play and prevent it from being destroyed. So to curb this, we are going to go with 4 copies of Blossoming Defense and 4 copies of Heroic Intervention. Now these 2 cards are great because they're a 1 and a 2-drop. Heroic Intervention is a 2-drop, 1 green, 1 other, instant speed permanents you control, gain hexproof and indestructible till the end of the turn. And Blossoming Defense is a 1-drop, instant speed, target creature gets +2/+2 and hexproof. So these are great cards for protecting the Winding Constrictor. Sometimes when we play Magic, we've just got to be a little bit patient. We've got to make sure that if we want to cast something and protect it like the Winding Constrictor sometimes, turn 3 is the best to do it so that we have that 1 green mana spare so we can easily use our Blossoming Defense to protect it. And yeah, if they've got 2 spells in their hands and they want to do a 2-for-1 on the Constrictor, then so be it. Let them do it. 2-for-1 is always in our favor. It means that they've got 2 less removals in their hand and we are going to be on the draw. Having 8 cards that protect our creatures in our deck is going to be very handy. It's not always going to work out that we protect the Winding Constrictor, but once we have got to that mid-game where we're ramped with our Winding Constrictor, it's not really going to matter because we're going to be in a strong enough position to protect our stronger creatures anyhow. Remembering we do also have 4 copies of the Winding Constrictor in the deck, so if we do lose one for a 2-for-1 or just 1-for-1, we can draw into another one. We all know how important it is to curve well in our deck, so we're going to move on to some more 2-drops to synergize with our deck that's going to help us ramp into our bigger creatures later. And our first of our small creatures is going to be our first 2-drop, and that is 4 copies of Servant of the Conduit. Now I like Servant of the Conduit. It's 1 green, 1 other, it's a 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield we get 2 energy. It has the ability where we can pay 1 energy, tap it, and we can add 1 color of any mana to our pool. Now the good thing about this is that when the Servant comes into play, we have an extra body on the field, we have extra mana fixing, and we also get an additional energy. So that we've got 3 energy that we can use to cast anything that we need double green or double blacks. Anything in the deck that we can use to sink a little bit of extra energy into is going to be great. And that help coming from the Winding Constrictor is perfect. Now it's pretty simple what this card's about. We're not going to go over it too much because we know it's a ramp card. So let's move on to our next 2-drop, and that's going to be 4 copies of Ether Poisoner. Yes, Ether Poisoner. This is such an underrated card. 1 black, 1 other, 1/1 Death Touch creature. When it comes into play, we get another 2 energy. Winding Constrictor, we get 3 energy. And whenever the Ether Poisoner attacks, we may pay 2 energy and create a colorless servo creature. Nothing wrong with that. We can go wide here, or we can just put those extra bodies on the ground to make sure that we can protect our life total and start swinging in once we've ramped to what we need to get to. And finally, the last of our 2-drops, we're going to go with 4 copies of Long Tusk Cub. Long Tusk Cub is a 2/2, it's 1 green, 1 other to cast, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we get 2 energy. Its secondary ability is we can pay 2 energy to put a +1/+1 counter on the Long Tusk Cub. Now the beauty about this is the Winding Constrictor is in play. Whenever we attack, we get 3 energy, and we pay 2 energy, we get a +1 counter, in addition a +1 counter from the Winding Constrictor. So we're getting the synergy, so we're going to have to use the energy from the Ether Poisoner from the Servant of the Conduit. We could always sink the energy into this to make it bigger, bigger, bigger. But the point of having all these 2-drops is so that we always have a low curve mana available to be able to protect the Winding Constrictor. Okay, it's time to move on to our 3-drops. Now the first of our 3-drops is 4 copies of Risker, Pima Renegade. It's 1 green, 2 others, it's a 2/2, but when Risker enters the battlefield, he puts a +1 counter on up to 2 creatures. So if we have the Winding Constrictor in play, each of those creatures is going to be getting +2, +2. And on top of this, Risker's additional ability is each creature we control with a +1 counter on it can add 1 green to our mana pool. So this is going to help us ramp once again into our late cards, and also it's going to help us get our creatures much, much stronger. Now, to make sure we've got a card that's going to be able to synergize with this, we've also going to put in another 3-drop, and that is 2 copies of Ronis the Indomitable. Now, the thing I do love about Ronis is not the fact that he's Death Touch and indestructible 5/5, or the fact that he's 1 green and 2 others, so he's a beautiful 3-drop, but no, it's the fact that we can sink our mana into him. So all those counters, all that land we're not using, we can pay 1 green and 2 others, and another target creature gets +2 and trample until the end of the turn. Not only that, but now Ronis can attack. So if we've got all these extremely powerful creatures, we're going to start trampling over with them now. But wait, there's more. As we move into our 4-drops, we can get 4 copies of Bristling Hydra. Yeah, it's a double green and 2 others, so it's a 4-drop. It's 4/3, but when it enters the battlefield, it's giving us 3 energy. Winding Constrictor triggers, we get 4 energy. The secondary ability, pay 3 energy, put a +1 counter on Bristling Hydra, gains hexproof till the end of the turn. Bristling Hydra gets an additional +1/+1 if the Winding Constrictor's in play as well. We can also trigger the Bristling Hydra's energy and dump it into our Long Tusk Cub, giving that +4/+4 if we choose to spend 2 of the energy. And then of course, if we've got that extra mana available, we use the Ronis, we give it Pump, and then we give it Trample. Oh man, these are so damn good. Okay, so it feels like we're charging through the deck pretty quickly, but we're on to our next curve now, and that is our 5-drops. Now, our first and only 5-drop we're going to be playing is a very crucial part of this deck to make sure for the win condition, and that is 4 copies of Virtuous Gearhulk. It's double green, 3 others, it's a 4/4 trample, but when Virtuous Gearhulk enters the battlefield, you can distribute 4 +1 counters amongst any number of target creatures. So the beauty of this is you can slam it onto 1 creature, you can give it +1 from the Winding Constrictor, or you can put a +1 on 4 different creatures, giving them each a +1 counter from the Winding Constrictor. Wow, you know, it's amazing. And of course, then we can use the other abilities like Ruskers, so we can use the mana available for it, or we can use Ronis and make them trample. Oh man, the synergy in this deck is so beautiful. And yes, it's creature heavy, but it's damage heavy too. That is the great thing about this deck. When you look at the overall power of the deck, we think back about all the creatures we have used, the only one creature we're probably not likely to pump up is going to be the Servant of the Conduit. That is our ramp card. That is our mana drop. That is also our energy drop. When you think about the Virtuous Gearhulk dropping in or Rusker dropping in, we can give the Ether Poisoner so many counters. If you really want, we could make it as big as a 5/5 Death Touch creature, just like Ronis. You know, we use the Virtuous Gearhulk, it gets the additional +1. We can use the Ruskers. It's amazing what we can do with these combinations in this deck. The damage is almost limitless. Okay, so we've only got room in the deck for 2 more cards, and I have chosen this card, and that is going to be 2 copies of Journey to Eternity. Now, I love Journey to Eternity. It's low curve enchantment. It's 1 green, 1 black, 1 other, and it enchants a creature we control, and when the enchanted creature dies, we can return it to the battlefield under our control. We can transform the Journey to Eternity to Etzal Cave of Eternity, legendary land, add 1 mana of any color to our pool, secondary ability, pay 5, 1 green, 1 black, 3 others, return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield, constantly cycling. This is beautiful. So we use Journey to Eternity to protect our Winding Constrictor also. We can use Journey to Eternity to any card that's going to produce any form of renewal energy, renewal damage counters to us. So Journey to Eternity, the virtuous Gearhulk, it dies, it comes back, it dumps another +4 counters. Or we use it for Ruska, or we use it on our Death Touch creatures. You just got to keep doing it. It's amazing, the beauty of this card. And once it's been flipped, oh mate, they are in so much trouble. We can continuously keep cycling our cards from our graveyard to the battlefield, especially if we have Ruska in play, because with Ruska we've got those creatures with the +1 counters on them, giving us extra mana to be able to sink into the ability of Etzel. Alright, let's move on to our lands, and we're going to keep it real simple. We're going to go with 10 forests, 10 swamps, and 4 blooming marshes, because we're pretty easy on this mana fixing because we've got some extra mana given to us. So I'm pretty sure and I'm confident that this is going to be fine for the deck. Alright, I guess it's time to move on to our Manbag. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different with our Manbag. We're actually going to stick to a theme we're going through in the deck, and that is to be able to make sure we can protect and return things from our graveyard to play. So, to recycle stuff from the graveyard, we're going to go with 4 copies of Recover. Now, I love Recover because Recover is a 1 black, 2 other, it's sorcery speed, but we can return target creature card from the graveyard to our hand and we get a draw card. So there's nothing wrong with drawing. Drawing is really helpful for any deck. So cycling stuff from a graveyard to the hand is not as good as cycling from the graveyard to the battlefield, but it is the next step up. Keeping with the theme, we're going to go with another 2 copies of Journey to Eternity, because what's better than having more of that tasty sauce in our deck? We can always take something out to put more in. This is the way this deck works. They try and kill it, we return it. We get those battlefield triggers with the likes of Ruska or virtuous Gearhulk, the Ether Poisoner, the Long Tusk Cubs. It's beautiful. Even Servant of the Conduit if we get real desperate, because mana is going to be helpful, energy is going to be helpful. Everything we use in the deck can synergize with each other. It is perfect. Alright, let's move on. Now every green deck should probably have some of these in their sideboard, and we're going to go with 2 copies of Naturalize. Naturalize is a 2-drop, so it's good for our curve, it's instant speed, and it destroys target artifact or enchantment. Self-explanatory really, isn't it? We don't need to have more than 2 though. So this is what we're going to do. So we can use this for any of the luminous bonds or auras that have come out of rivals. We can use it for any of the artifacts. We can get rid of the immortal sun. We can get rid of the banners. Anything that's going to be able to help your opponents beat us. Okay, well, let's move on to the next card then, shall we? Okay, so once again, the next card in our sideboard is going to synergize with our themes in our decks, and that is 2 copies of Strength of the Pact. Now, I love Strength of the Pact. It is a 6-drop, double green, and 4 others. It is sorcery speed, but however, with the Winding Constrictor in play, if we put 2 +1 counters on each creature we control, that becomes 3 +1 counters on each creature. And if we can double up on the Winding Constrictors, it's +4. And that's the same with everything in our deck. And the more Winding Constrictors we have, the more counters we can have on all of our creatures. The thing I love the most about the Winding Constrictor is when we have multiples of them in play, we have multiple triggers. So if we're going to have the likes of virtuous Gearhulk, Ruska, or any of the energy creatures like the Ether Poisoner, the Long Tusk Cub, the Servant of the Conduit coming into play, these are all going to double up. They're all going to stack up. So it's +1 counters will become 2 on each creature. The energy will become 4 instead of 2, or it'll become 5 instead of 3 from the Bristling Hydra. It's amazing how effective the decks synergize with each other. It's a marriage made in heaven. The only thing that the Strength of the Pack is actually missing is the fact that it doesn't give all your creatures trample. But hey, we do have the virtuous Gearhulk and we do have Ronis to help with that. So let's hope that we can use those together and create a hell of a lot of havoc to our opponent. Speaking of trample, I've decided to put 2 of this big boy into our sideboard, and that's 2 copies of Golta, Primal Hunger. Yes, Golta does cost 2 and 10 others. It's 12/12 trample, but Golta has the ability to be able to cost X less for each total power of the creatures we control. So we know that our power of our creatures is quite high and increases as the game goes on with the +1 counters. So we can hold Golta for a little bit, And, you never know, by turn 6, we're probably going to be dropping into play for free. And what's better than that? Being able to drop Goltra into play and then a virtuous Gear Hulk on top of that with the Winding Constrictors, even multiple Winding Constrictors. Damn, we could almost have like an 18-18 Goltra trampling in. Oh, wow. And you know what? Maybe we got the mana for a Blossoming Defense. They try and destroy it and it becomes 20-20 trample. Oh man, that hurts. Okay, let's move into the last card of our sideboard. And I've picked a beauty, and that is 3 copies of Mastermind's Acquisition. Now, Mastermind Acquisition is sorcery, it's double black and 2 others, so it's a 4-drop, but it has 2 abilities that are going to work beautifully with our deck. So the first one is we can search our library for a card and put it into our hand, shuffle our library. Or the secondary ability is like the Wish ability, we can choose a card from outside of the game and put it into our hand. So it's a tutoring card. So we have all these beautiful cards in our sideboard that synergize with our deck so perfectly. We can easily use a Mastermind Acquisition in our deck, tutor for something like a Journey of Eternity, we can tutor for a Strength of the Pack, or we can tutor for Goltra. Man, I love this card. It is so underused and potential is so great. Yeah, especially with this deck, the double black is what we're looking for because we don't have any trouble getting green with Ruska coming into play and giving us that additional green mana. Well, that's it for me here. I think that's the deck. I hope you like it. I'm Phil. This is MTG Kiwi Philosophy. I really hope you enjoy it. Share it, like it, subscribe. You know what I'm like. Do what you want. I'll catch you on the flip side. Ciao.